الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين وبعد. In the year 71 AD, the idol-worshipping Romans expelled the Jews from Palestine. In the Old Testament, it is reported that at least a segment of that area that we know today as Palestine, was called Palestine. And the inhabitants were called Philistines. Philistines, it's the same thing. And this is before Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam came and settled him and his children, grandchildren in Palestine. We believe in all of the prophets of the children of Israel who Allah sent. We believe in them totally. But this is the history. There were peoples living in Palestine before Ibrahim alayhi salam, continued living there after Ibrahim alayhi salam, until the time the Romans expelled the Jews from Palestine. And Ibrahim wasn't a Jew. Israel, Jacob, Yaqub wasn't a Jew. Isaac, Ishaq wasn't a Jew. But they were expelled, the Jews, from Palestine in the year 71. Until the early 1900s, the Jews had no connection to Palestine, because after the Romans were expelled, there were people still living there. And then the Islamic opening, Fath, call it Fath, opening, not conquering, came and took over the Sham area, Greater Syria, from the Christian Romans, Byzantines, continued all the way until the Crusades. After the Crusades were defeated, continued also the inhabitants, or Muslims now, Arab Muslims, Palestinians. You know, when you call somebody after where they lived or where they came from, it's okay to call Palestinians. They continued living in Palestine until the early 1900s. The Brits started the conflict, as they did everywhere they occupied areas. When they left these areas in continuous fighting disputes with their neighbors, because they took land from this area, give it to these people, from this area, give it to that people, and people kept fighting. And it's not only in Palestine. They did the same in Palestine, but with a most wicked twist. 2nd of November 1917. 2nd of November 1917. 2nd of November 1917. The Arabs were told about this date because it is when the Foreign Secretary of Great Britain, it was great. I mean, today, yes, it's not great, it's this much, but it was great at the time. Lord Balfour gave a promise to the Jews to establish a homeland for the Jews, putting in mind that there are people there, so we're not gonna, devastate the other peoples, but this is the promise. And since then, Britain gave all kinds of support to the Jews. Now, we started by saying year 70, 71, early 1900s, for over 1800 years, the Jews had no connection to Palestine, never lived there, no ties, were not even allowed to visit there for most of that time. They lived in Europe, they lived in everywhere else. And the original Israelites who remained who were not living in Palestine when the Jews were expelled from there, they still remained among the Arabs in Morocco, in Egypt, in Yemen, Iraq. So no connection with Palestine. You can read the history. They had no connection. It's just absolutely zero, nothing. Then when the Brits gave that promise, most wicked promise given by one of the worst war criminals of our times, Wallah, Balfour, criminal. He gave a promise to the Jews who never owned Palestine to give them a homeland in Palestine, and Britain did not own Palestine. So it's not like other areas that were occupied, the British, the French, the Dutch, and other European criminal occupiers who violently suppressed the local nations, stole their treasures, and controlled them. Palestine was different. Palestine had Al-Quds, Jerusalem, in it. Jerusalem is the third, as they say, holiest Islamic place of worship for Muslims. So it's the third of the three masajid. Masjid being a place of worship, not mosque. Masjid. So the Muslims had great connection to Palestine. They would visit Palestine. It's a holy land to the Muslims, and they would settle there. They would move from there, go to other Muslim areas until the Brits came, and they gave this promise. These people are truly wicked. Palestine had about close to 2 million inhabitants when this promise was given to the Jews. So to give a part of that land to the Jews on the condition that they will not, cause severe adverse consequences for the, population. Palestine is small, a very small area. And they allowed millions of people to come to where 2 million Palestinians, Muslim and Christian, you see, the Christian world keeps forgetting this. Muslim and Christian people lived in Palestine. They're Arab, they're from different areas. It's their homeland. They stayed there for all this time since before the Bible was written by the Jews. So it's not possible such a small land that they would come and find like empty lands. There will have to be a part of the population that lived in Palestine since before the Bible were living there when the Brits took over Palestine in the mandate that was given to them by the League of Nations. They occupied Palestine before that, when the mandate came. These people were living there in that small area. A part of them, half of them, most of them, a third of them, 2/3 of them, all of them will have to be displaced to bring the newcomers. Now the newcomers came and said, this is our land. It belongs to us. God gave this land to the seed of Abraham. Look at the title here, Abraham, see signature, Abraham. However, it is not possible, even if they try so very hard, for the Jews of today to prove that they are all among the seed of Abraham, Israelites. That's another topic. Anyway, they said and started coming in droves, and Britain, to fulfill their promise, allowed them to come, and they took over areas from the Palestinians. In the beginning, it wasn't as violent as later on. So they started taking over lands by claiming, that, okay, we're going to buy this land. And the Arabs were not aware of the plot at the time, in the early time. Okay, you want to buy, fine. You want to reside here, fine. It's Holy Land for the Jews, or Christians, and for the Muslims. They set up fake organizations and companies to buy lands from the Palestinians, because they would use Arabs, whether Muslim or Christian, to be in the front, so that they can negotiate. The camera is moving, so I'm so they can negotiate with the Arabs to buy their land. Until the Arabs discovered what was going on, they stopped. Far less than 3% of Palestine was sold either by the Arabs during that time, who did not realize the plot behind what was going on, and by these fake companies. And then the Arabs started realizing something going on here. These people are coming from Europe, mainly. And they had no ties to Palestine, and they kept coming and coming and coming. Supplied by weapons, because Britain was not even looking the other way. They were instrumental in allowing the Jews to bring weapons that the local population they didn't have. Remember, it's a small population, small area, controlled by the one of the superpowers of their time, the Brits, and they didn't have weapons because they were being occupied. So the Jews came and they started collecting all kinds of weapons, and supported by money and supported by weapons from Europe. Britain looked the other way, and supported by men. So the three elements of occupation were coming together little by little. First they came, the people, and they kept coming. They were helped with money by their own communities, by European countries, and they acquired weapons. The local population there was oppressed, suppressed, and so many of them did not realize what was going on until they realized what was going on clearly. And these people are coming not to occupy and rule the people as slaves. They're coming here to expel the people, because they're saying, this is our land, God gave it to us, you don't exist here, you don't belong here. So from that time all the way until the United Nations, those criminals, divided Palestine into two states, Palestine, a Palestinian state, Arab state, and Jewish state. And the Jews took much more than what was allocated to them by the criminals in the United Nations, who did not own Palestine. But until that time, there were so many violent clashes that happened between the Palestinians, who had really few weapons. Also, there were uprisings against Britain. There were uprisings against the Jews. But it's a population that was not very well educated. They were occupied by Britain, while another kind of occupier is coming and telling them, this is our land, get out. Violence, expelling them from their lands, massacres. We Palestinians are told about the Balfour Promise since we were kids, because this is what happened to us. This is what these people did to us. Really, devastation they brought us. We didn't do them any wrong. So they started coming and coming and coming and coming, and then massacres and fighting. They are increasing in number, the Jews, in numbers, in the weapons, money, support. The West was supporting them like crazy, really. And they kept coming and expelling the Palestinians. A large part of the Palestinians also left their land for fear, for their lives, their properties, their families, their children. They left until the war of division between the two states, one that was occupied by Britain and another one occupied by new occupiers whom Britain brought and gave them all kinds of support. And then the Jews, as usual, in appreciation for what the Brits did for them, they started also attacking the Brits and, assassinating the British leaders, army, killing, Britain so many times issued warrants for the arrest of terrorists. Menachem Begin, who was later the Prime Minister of Israel, Menachem Begin, that was a terrorist. Also, Yitzhak Shamir, who became Prime Minister later on, a terrorist, according to the British. Ben Gurion was a terrorist, according to the occupiers, the Brits and their media. And Begin, when he wanted to go to visit Britain, even he wasn't allowed to go into Britain because he was a known terrorist leader who attacked British soldiers and army and did assassinations. So he and his group came here to America. Even Einstein objected and called that, Begin called him a terrorist and mentioned the massacre of Deir Yassin. So those massacres started soon after the Jews came, and then the plot was clear now to the Palestinians that it's a total expulsion from their homeland that they own, that they lived on since before the Bible, and that the Jews never lived in for over 1800 years. You see, the Jews kept saying, God promised this land, the Holy Land, to Abraham forever. Forever, it seems, in the Jewish mentality, seems for a few years, minus 1800 plus years. Because for 18 centuries and more, they didn't live there. They didn't live there. They did not live there, had no ties to this land. So they started coming, killing, expelling, massacres after massacres. And the West kept increasing in support for the Jews. Now, Hitler came, and Hitler wanted to finish the job that the Christians couldn't finish. Because from the beginning, the Christians of Europe were targeting the Jews with all kinds of violence, including massacres, killing them, oppressing them, enslaving them. So many massacres. Do you know? Let me make this statement clearer. Do you know that the first crusade, before it reached the Holy Land, they said, hey, since we're here, we have armies, have soldiers, let's go and do our neighbors, the Jews, and they started killing the Jews in Europe before they went all the way to Palestine. So the 2,000 years, almost 2,000 years that Europe was killing the Jews before they became Christian and after they became Christian, especially since their book says that the Jews killed their God, Jesus, Isa, Jesus, and they killed the Jews for that. But they were supporting the Jews like mad. Now, Hitler said, let's finish the job. He couldn't finish the job, according to the West, and of course the Jews, keep it here. This is my heart, by the way. This is my right hand, and the Jews kept it here. 6 million Jews, Holocaust. This is what they mentioned to the Palestinians when they came and kept coming and killing. Holocaust. We didn't do it. Europe did it. Christians did it. We had nothing to do with it. You come kill me because somebody else killed your relatives. So the Holocaust. The Holocaust couldn't finish the Jews. They say 6 million. Don't dare say 5,999,999. because in some, European democratic countries, if you question those numbers, you might end up in jail. And the West was supporting them all the way. Now you have the War of 1948. What happened before that is that the Arabs, knowing that the Palestinians were being massacred, expelled, they said, come our way, we're just preparing the armies, we're going to go in and free Palestine. That didn't happen. They were defeated, the Arabs. 1956, the Jews, Britain and France attacked Egypt. And from 48 to 56, continued. Sharon was entrusted with the liquidation of the people of Gaza long before he became prime minister. See? There was no Hamas. I guarantee you. When Balfour gave that promise, none of the leaders of Hamas was even born during that time. But those massacres continued all the time. You have 1948, you have 1956. America now started flexing their muscles and told Britain, France, and Israel to get out. And they did, because now the new master is telling them. Then you have 1967, and the Jews are the ones who started that war. They attacked Egypt, Jordan, and Syria and defeated all three countries in 6 hours. Can you see 6 hours? Okay. This is my right hand, my left hand, 6 hours. Not the 6-day war, as they say, 6 hours. Because they had fanatical support from the West, from America. They made sure that the Israelis are stronger than the Jews, are stronger than all Arab countries combined. This promise still stands today. 1967. 1973, Egypt, and of course Syria was with them in the beginning. Egypt taught the Jews a lesson to make them realize that they are not a superpower and that they can be defeated. 1973. Then Sadat made that peace treaty with the Jews, with Israel, with provisions about self-rule in the West Bank and Gaza, and of course the Palestinians refused to do that, and the Jews did not stop coming and coming and coming, killing and killing, expelling and expelling. They kept coming. There was no Hamas. They kept coming. They said, this is our land. We're supported by the West. We have all this money, manpower. We are supported by the West. We want your land. You don't belong here. It's not your land. God gave it to us. You see the conflict here? Now, when the peace treaty worked for Egypt, didn't work for the Palestinians, then Jordan had a peace treaty with the Jews, and nothing changed for the Palestinians. It's still the same situation. Killing, the expelling, the massacres continued. The Palestinians did not gain from that peace treaty whatsoever. And then you have what happened all the way from 1973, that war. After that, Egypt did not fight the Jews, period, or Syria. Lebanon can't fight even each other. And Jordan did not participate in the 1973 war. So there were peace treaties between people who, at a minimum, fought the Jews. Okay? Yeah, I can understand. They decided for themselves that we're going to do, they abandoned the Palestinians completely, because the Palestinians can't defend themselves. And you have Al-Quds, Jerusalem, that the Muslims have so much attention and ties to. It's in their heart, it's in their Quran. Al-Masjid al-Aqsa, the farther masjid, is in the Quran. But those peace treaties did not help the Palestinians. And then you remember the Intifada, Sabra and Shatila, and so many other massacres. 99% of them, Hamas was nowhere to be seen. Hamas started ruling Gaza in 2007. 2007 until today, Gaza was under complete blockade. The Jews controlled water, food, medicine, and everything else that would come to Gaza if the Jews allowed. And there were so many massacres in Gaza also before Hamas and after Hamas. The West Bank. The West Bank is a larger area with a larger population than Gaza. Gaza, you have 2.5 million people, 5 miles by 25 miles. Gaza is smaller than the West Bank. You have 3.5 million there, Palestinians in the West Bank, but they have hundreds of settlements by the Jews. We'll talk about the settlements. So it has settlements by the Jews. Those settlements kept increasing and increasing and increasing. And the Palestinians, they had no way to leave if they wanted to leave. And so many of them did not want to leave because they remember the promises from the Arabs. Come here. The Arabs don't want them. They don't want 6 million Palestinians to go live among them. I mean, they've had enough up to here with the Palestinians they already have. So the Palestinians are there in that situation. It's not a force of occupation, like, they're going to enslave you, this and that. They're telling you, this is our land. God gave it to us. You do not exist. Golda Meir? There was a movie years ago, Golda, a woman of substance, of evil substance, such an evil woman, war criminal. She didn't even recognize there were Palestinians there, and she's a Ukrainian. She's not from Palestine. She's a Ukrainian Jew, and she was born in Kiev, whatever, depends on who's saying the word. She didn't belong there, but she didn't recognize there were Palestinians even. So this is the conflict. I had to start. Now let's see how many minutes I had to say, because I want to remind the people about the story of Palestine. For so many years in the West Bank, there were conflicts. The Jews would come, steal land, the Palestinians resist. Then they come and shoot and kill and drive them out. There are about 10 million Palestinians who were expelled from Palestine, at least their parents, and they, of course, increased in number, who don't live in Palestine. They live all over the world. I am included. I grew up in Kuwait. Who remains there in the West Bank and Gaza were a total of 6 million Palestinians. Gaza, the Jews left it because it's not even a part of the historical state of Israel, whatever, that garbage they said. But the West Bank, they concentrated on the West Bank. 450,000 settlers lived there. The settlers. Heartless, inhumane criminals who come from Europe. So many of them came from Brooklyn. Jews from Brooklyn who never had any ties with Palestine before. And especially the women who came from Brooklyn are more vicious than even the men. They have no hesitation. They actually call for the killing, expulsion of Palestinians. When women, children, they don't care. So the story is, the Jews say Palestine is ours. God gave it to us. You don't belong here. Get out. Either you get out or we'll expel you by force, kill you, massacres, bombing. and the Palestinians did not have the ability to defend themselves. So this leads me to Hamza Yusuf. Hamza Yusuf. Hamza Yusuf. Hamza Yusuf. La ilaha illallah. This man comes and says, and you can find it on the internet. I don't want to include it here so they don't tell us copyright. Hamza Yusuf says to the Palestinians, be patient. Instead of attacking, did these attacks that you did, being patient, you will gain the sympathy from the world. Ya Hamza Yusuf, did the conflict start when Hamas started without permission from Muslims or from the people of Gaza? They started this latest conflict. They started it. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Of course, they don't have the weapons. They can't fight the Jews. And it's clear from what happened before that the Jews would retaliate. And this time, they will retaliate with vengeance because you killed more Jews this time than before. And of course, the kidnapping of women and children, which I reject completely. I don't care what they're saying, those Hamas and people who support them. This is haram in our religion. Anyway, the conflict did not start when Hamas started the latest conflict. Before that, there were so many conflicts. Can't you read the history? Jews kept coming, destroying, bombing, indiscriminately killing thousands of people. Do you know that Ariel Sharon, when they were telling him in the 50s, go liquidate Gaza, killed more Palestinians than what the Israeli criminal regime under Netanyahu have managed to kill so far? So it didn't start October 7th to tell the Palestinians, be patient. Yeah, we said before you, be patient because we can't fight. It's clear we cannot fight the Jews because the Arabs don't want to fight the Jews. We discovered that way long time ago. They can't. According to them, they can't fight the Jews. They don't want to fight the Jews. We know that. And the wars that happened, so many Muslims were killed, but this is the general trend. They were abandoning the Palestinians to their fate. The countries around Palestine will not agree to take 6 million Palestinians. Not Lebanon. I'm going to mention names. Not Lebanon. Of course, Syria. Okay, they're killing Muslims there with the Iranians who are now talking about Palestine, but they're going to Syria to kill Muslims instead of fighting the Jews. Jordan, majority are Palestinian already. They can't fit there. Egypt said, no more. We don't want them. Which country would take these 6 million people? Because being patient here is not like we'll be patient and then, later. No. These people are telling you this is our land. God gave it to us. Abraham signed the title for us. Here is the title. You don't belong here. Get out. You don't exist. It's not a matter of France's occupation of some countries in Africa. They were enslaving the people, stealing their treasures and killing them. These people come to replace the entire population. Harry Truman, a true criminal man, said that we had to take Palestine in pieces because you cannot replace 2 million people with 2 million people from other peoples suddenly. That's what he said. We had to take it in pieces. So already so many Palestinians, millions of them live in the surrounding countries, in Lebanon, Syria, in Iraq, in Jordan, of course, in Egypt, in the Gulf area, and throughout the world. And they don't want more Palestinians. Which country would take 6 million people? Palestinian people. Morocco, Algeria, Tunis, Libya, we're fighting each other. Sudan, they're fighting each other. Egypt said no. Gulf area will not take 6 million Palestinians. I can tell you. Iraq, the Ja'faris, the Shia, Iranian Shia are killing the Iranian Muslims in Iran and the Arab Muslims and Kurdish Muslims in Iraq. They don't want more Sunnis, Palestinians or whatever. Lebanon, I mean, which country would take 6 million? Why am I asking this question? It's because foolish people like Hamza Yusuf, who pretends not to know what the conflict is about, just wanted to say something. Palestinians, be patient. If you didn't start this, people will, all over the world will have sympathy. When is this sympathy coming, Mr. Hamza? When? 106 years we've been waiting for that sympathy. It's not happening. It's not happening. People are not willing to help the Palestinians. They just want this trouble to go away. It's the camera that's moving by itself. So anyway, so when is this sympathy coming? When? And how is sympathy coming? Gaza under total blockade. Okay, that started with Hamas taken over by violence, taken over Gaza. They're tyrants. I have no hesitation to say that. They're tyrants. They did not prepare for this conflict, and their leaders are sitting in luxury in Qatar and Turkey and other areas. Anyway, the West Bank is continuous attacks, killing. Settlers are coming to steal your land. Nothing stops them from doing that. They're not going to stop. They have the weapons, the money, the support, and the Israeli army standing by and not interfering in the killing that these people are doing to the Palestinians. You understand? Hamza Yusuf, stop this foolishness. I mean, for a Batini Sufi, extremist Sufi like you, to talk about jihad, even, to begin with, is like a bid'ah, it's an innovation. Sufis, what do Sufis have to do with jihad? But the Palestinians, they have been patient. 2023, from the beginning until October 7, when Hamas started in Gaza, this is the West Bank here. There are no Hamas in the West Bank. 300 Palestinians were shot dead by the Jews, including an 80-year-old woman. And the justification was that they were preparing to do a terrorist attack. Terrorist. What is 80-year-old woman going to do? The only thing she can do is spit at you, the Jews, and the so-called Muslims who are supporting you. What? She died. She was killed. She was shot. A number of my own family, my name is Jalal Abualrub, from Palestine, from the West Bank, from the city of Jenin. And these are my books. You can find my books, islamlife.com, islamlife.com. Allah blessed me and my family to produce 60 books explaining Islam, defending Islam. This book here behind me. Okay, that one. Holy Wars, Crusades, Jihad. I mentioned the struggle of Palestine, issues of jihad, compared that to the Old Testament, New Testament. This book, the 3rd edition, is coming. A number of my family were killed in the West Bank. They don't support Hamas. They're not Hamas. They're just ordinary Muslims. So being patient doesn't work. Yes, Hamas had lousy weapons, and they started this without strategic goal. I can understand what the goal, but that doesn't mean the Jews will stand by and say, they're being patient. Okay, the blockade is total. Before that, it was partial from 2007 until now. Before that, it was occupation. They were occupied by the Jews, Gaza. 2007 until now, total blockade. So the people there, the patient, not patient, the total blockade. How can you tell people who don't have money or access to, food or water or access to medicine, tell them, be patient, be patient. Because they will tell you, we've been patient and been killed for over 100 years. What's wrong with you? The West Bank is the same story. Every year, hundreds of Palestinians, men, women, and children are shot dead in the West Bank. Continuing from 1967, when the Jews took over the West Bank and Jerusalem. They're stealing Jerusalem one handspan at a time. They're not leaving. Hamza, Yusuf, it is way above your level of lack of knowledge even to talk about, because it's not about Hamas. The sympathy you're talking about 106 years, when is going to come? It's not coming. It's not coming. And what are the Palestinians supposed to do now in the West Bank? Okay, the settlers are not going to Gaza because Netanyahu is trying to destroy the whole place. Maybe they will expel them all to Egypt, in which case Egypt will definitely go to war because they can't handle 2.5 more million Palestinians more than what they have already. But the West Bank, the conflict has been since 1967. They steal the land, kick you out. The Arabs won't take you. They have nowhere to go. And they're coming and they're shooting. They're shooting, burning homes, burning Islamic places of worship, killing Palestinian Muslims and Jews, mostly Muslims. Stealing your farms, burning and cutting down olive trees. They have some kind of enmity to olive trees. So, but they're not going anywhere. They're saying this is our land, God gave it to us, and we have all the power and strength we need to kick you out. So they're working on it. They've been working on it for decades, and they took over now a large part of the West Bank. The two-state solution that the war criminal Biden is talking about, how can that be? You see, here is the West Bank, hundreds of settlements. Those settlements, they have roads between them over Palestinian land. Palestinians cannot use those roads. They're armed to the teeth. They have no humanity. These are the killers of the prophets. The Bible, the Old Testament, and the New Testament spoke about the Jews killing the prophets. The New Testament, the Christians know, according to their book, that the Jews oppressed Jesus so much, and they claim that they killed him too. So what humanity do you expect from these people? Maybe half of them are not even Israelites. They're just coming to take your land. So what are you supposed to tell the Palestinians? Be patient. If they're patient, not doing anything, they go to my town, Qabatia, close to Jenin. I'll shoot the people because they want you out. It's not about a peace treaty. So the Emirates made the peace treaty, and Bahrain and Oman with Israel, or whatever they call it, because I can't call it a peace treaty. They never fought against the Jews. It didn't benefit the Palestinians. The Jews kept coming. A week after the Emirates signed that deal with the Jews, they started a new settlement in the West Bank. So the peace treaties, they don't work for the Palestinians. That's why they always get angry. They don't work. So nothing is happening for the Palestinians except that more killing and killing and killing. And now you have millions of Palestinians living there. They have nowhere to go. And the Jews will keep coming and shooting them and bombing them and killing them and stealing their lands, homes, farms. Patience is irrelevant, because patience means what? The settlers will say, so you're submitting to us. You're listening to fake scholars like Hamza, Yusuf say, be patient, be patient. Yeah, be patient. But how can you be patient if they're coming towards you, your town, your village, Qabatia, and they're shooting you, shooting your children and family? You just stand by and say, I'm going to be patient. You're going to use whatever you have to defend yourself. You see? Because the Palestinians have reached the point of, I don't want to say the word, but hopelessness. They feel hopeless in the Arabs, and the Arabs are lining up to make peace with the Jews and open embassies. They gave up on the Palestinians. They abandoned the Palestinians, and the Palestinians don't have the weapons to defend themselves. They're not allowed. They are being killed and devastated continuously, gradually, over the decades. No peace treaty made them stop. The Jews. No peace treaty made them stop. So what are we supposed to tell the Palestinians? So it's a false statement to say that if the Palestinians, and he spoke in such a broken Arabic, I can't believe that people are listening to this man in the hundreds of thousands, and his Arabic is broken. His Arabic is bad. It's broken. And he's speaking in Arabic, let them be patient, this and that. And then, they gain sympathy. Did they gain sympathy from anybody from the beginning of 2023 until October 7, when all these hundreds of Palestinians were shot dead in the West Bank? So I call for patience all the time, but some situations are impossible for a human being who's looking around saying that there is no support. I can't go anywhere, even if I wanted, and I don't want to, because I want to repeat the same experience we had with the Arabs before, come here and they never came back. And they're looking around and have, what are they supposed to do? Because they will shoot them. And we Muslims do not stand and let people come shoot us. Hey, where would you like to shoot me? Here? Make it short. Just shoot me here. My children are here. They killed so many children. 2/3 of the 30,000 who were killed in Gaza were women and children. And still the Palestinians did not gain sympathy from anyone. And don't tell me 7 October, don't tell me they started this, Hamas. No. The Brits started that. You talk like a European who has no idea what Islam is about, who no idea what the conflict in Palestine is about. And this is what I want to end with. Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As, radiyallahu anhuma. Abdullah ibn Amr, son of Amr, one of the major companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, him and his father, said, سمعت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول, I heard the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Allah's blessings, mercy and honor on him, say, من قتل دون ماله فهو شهيد. رواه البخاري ومسلم. Whoever is killed in defense of his property is a martyr. Bukhari and Muslim, this is the greatest collections of authentic ahadith, Bukhari and Muslim, prophetic ahadith, statements of the Prophet ﷺ, Bukhari and Muslim. There is another narration for this hadith from another companion, Sa'id ibn Zayd, may Allah be pleased with him, one of the major companions of the Prophet, said that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Allah's honor, blessings, mercy on him, said, من قتل دون ماله فهو شهيد. Whoever is killed in defense of his property, he is a martyr, a shaheed. ومن قتل دون دينه فهو شهيد. Whoever is killed in defense of his religion is a shaheed, a martyr. ومن قتل دون دمه فهو شهيد. Whoever is killed to defend his life is a shaheed. ومن قتل دون أهله فهو شهيد. Whoever is killed in defense of their family, they are a shaheed. This hadith is collected by Imam At-Tirmidhi and others. Scholar At-Tirmidhi, hadith scholar. He graded it as authentic from the grade Hasan. Hasan is an authentic grade of hadith. Sahih is the highest grade of authentic ahadith. My Sheikh Imam al-Albani included this statement from the Prophet ﷺ in his book, the Sahih at-Tirmidhi, the collection of authentic ahadith found in the collection of ahadith by Imam at-Tirmidhi and others. So, in summary, Hamza Yusuf, learn your religion. There is another video coming after this, inshallah. I want the people to understand that these fake scholars, he's pretending that he doesn't know what he's talking about. The conflict did not start with Hamas. Didn't. Hamas doesn't exist in the West Bank. How come they've been killed there almost on a daily basis, or expelled or oppressed since 1967? What Hamas? What are you talking about? Patience here is not relevant. Also, the scholars who said, let's go help the Afghanis when they were under occupation, were attacked by the largest army in the world, the Soviet Union. They did not say, be patient, you have lousy weapons compared to what the Soviets had. They said, go fight. I did. I went to Afghanistan, fought against the communists. I hate the communists. And I hate the communists of China today more than I hate the communists of the Soviet Union. They didn't say to the Algerians, you're fighting a superpower, and France killed 1 million Algerians. Don't fight, be patient, because patience is not something that can be required from the people in air conditions. Because here, not even the French did that. They didn't go to villages and places of worship and homes and farms of of Algerians and tell them, God gave us, we don't believe in God, we claim, but God gave us Algeria, it's ours, get out, we're going to kill you. That's what's happening in Palestine. So I know it's a long lecture, but what can I say? How sad it is that I need to remember so-called scholars who claim to be scholars, genuine American scholar, Muslim scholar. He's not. I've seen many American native speaker of English who were Christian before, on other religions, who studied Islam, who had more knowledge than you have, and they have more faith in the Islamic sources and resources, the Quran and Sunnah, than you do. So you're not. But what can I say? What can I say? I really seek refuge with Allah from every hypocrite who knows how to talk. This is based on a statement from the Prophet ﷺ that he fears for his ummah, the Muslims, a hypocrite who's eloquent. La ilaha illallah. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help our brothers and sisters in Palestine, the West Bank and Gaza, and to help all Muslims who are being oppressed all over the world. Understand the topic. Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza have nowhere to go but the grave, because the Jews want them out of the land or out of this life. Victory only comes from Allah if we obey Him and obey His Messenger.